Theivanai Ammal College for Women. Learn, live and lead.
Hello everyone, my name is Mohamed Afread from the Department of Psychology, Theivanai Ammal College for Women Autonomous. Here, I would like to explain about olfaction and gustation, a topic which comes under human physiology. Now, let's move on to the topic olfaction. So think, what if we are not able to smell? Yeah, there is a particular condition known as anosmia. So it is nothing but it is an partially or complete loss of smell. It is also related with, it will affect our taste sense also. So anosmia can be due to a number of factors, including an inflammation of the nasal mucosa, blockage of nasal passages, or a destruction of one temporal lobe. So the conditions, yes, we are not, if we are not able to sense smell, a particular disorder known as anosmia. So yeah, this this anosmia is an unfortunate condition. Unfortunate condition is caused by head trauma, respiratory infection, and old aging. And I mentioned unfortunate because what we sense informs who we are, but how we experience our 6 major special sense down to one thing. Sensory cells translating chemical, electromagnetic, and mechanical stimulus into action potential that our nervous system can make sense of it. This process is called transduction. So transduction is changing mechanical stimulus into action potential. So that is why our nervous system can detect the information. And each sense works in its own way. Our vision functions with the help of photoreceptor cells that detect light waves, while our sense of touch, hearing, and balance use mechanoreceptors that detect sound waves and pressure on the skin and in the inner ear. But our sense of taste or gustation and smell or olfaction are chemical senses. They call on chemoreceptors in our taste buds and nasal passages to detect molecules in our food and the air around us. The chemical sense, what we call olfaction sense are our most primitive and our most fundamental. They are actually sharpest right of birth. So from the birth itself, we are able to sense the olfaction. Here you can see a particular portion from the inside of the nose. We receive the information, the stimulus, the molecules from the air surrounding us, the environment. We receive it through nasal passages into the olfactory epithelium. The process of smell thing, it starts as we sniff molecules. When we sniff molecules up to our nose, through our nose, this means that we are able to smell something. The odorant must be, yes, the molecules, it must be volatile. Then only we are able to, volatile means it should be in a gaseous state. Then only we are able to sense it. We are able to, what we call it as. It is a stimuli. We receive it from the surroundings through our nasal passages. So after the molecules enter through the nostrils, how much harder and deeper we sniff, the more molecules we vacuum up. So how much harder or deeper we sniff, the more molecules we vacuum up, and the more you can smell it. So the quantity of molecules enter into the nostrils, it is very important. So how much we add smells, how deeper or how harder we smell, that enables us to smell it. Most of these molecules are filtered out on the way up your nasal cavity as they get caught by your protective nose hairs, but a few make it all the way to the back of the nose and hit your olfactory epithelium. So the stimuli enters through the nostrils to the olfactory epithelium. So once the olfactory epithelium receives through olfactory sensory neurons, the information goes to the membrane. This is your olfactory system's main portion. Yeah, here in the picture you can see that the portion from the olfactory epithelium. A small yellowish patch on the tissue on the nasal cavity. You can see the lowest portion, the olfactory sensory neurons. It contains millions of bowling pin-shaped neurons surrounded by insulating columnar supporting cells. So you can see here in the down portion, the lobed portion, the olfactory epithelium contains olfactory sensory neurons which receives the stimuli, the molecules that enables the molecules to transmit to the inside what we received from the outside. After land on your olfactory epithelium and dissolve in the mucus that coats it, once in the mucus they are able to bind to receptor on your olfactory sensory neuron, which, assuming they hit their necessary threshold, fire action potential up their long axon and through your ethmoid bone into the olfactory bulb to the brain. So you can see here the molecules which I mentioned in the reddish color. The olfactory sensory neuron, it receives the molecules through dendrites and passes to the olfactory bulb through ethmoid bone. Each olfactory neuron has receptors for just one kind of smell. So you can see here there are different colors. The molecules are in different colors: red, yellow, green, blue and violet. So these are different molecules. So suppose that if you smell a pizza or any other kind of stuffs, that is made up of many other chemicals, many lots of chemicals, not only a particular chemical. So it has many molecules, many different smells. So once we smell a pizza, it has different kinds of smell. So each neurons from the olfactory epithelium, each neurons are responsible for receiving one particular smell. So listen, one neuron, one olfactory sensory neuron is responsible for receiving one particular smell. So there are millions of neurons which is responsible for receiving one particular smell. So each neurons, after receiving the molecules, it transmits the information through long axon and by passing ethmoid bone to the olfactory bulb. In the olfactory bulb, a portion known as glomerulus, which combine each and every olfactory sensory neuron together and transmit the information to the mitral cell. So in the olfactory bulb, it contains glomerulus, which is attached to the opposite neurons dendrites, which is known as mitral cells. So the information passes through the olfactory sensory neuron, through the ethmoid bone to the glomerulus, and glomerulus, which is combined each and every sensory neuron together and transmit the information to the mitral cell. The mitral cells passes the information. So yeah, you can see here the different colors which indicate that different kind of smell. So we are able to smell different kind of molecules. So each color is indicating different kinds of molecules. So each and every sensory neuron is combined together in a portion known as glomerulus and transmit the information to the mitral cell. And the mitral cells, which is responsible for transmitting the information, the olfactory information, it transmits the olfactory pathway to the brain. So the mitral cell, which is transmitting the information through the olfactory nerve to the brain. So the brain has two axes. So the brain has two axes to receive the olfactory information or olfactory nerves. So in the brain, the olfactory tract or olfactory nerves goes to the olfactory cortex, which is located in the temporal lobe. So in the temporal lobe, it has a particular portion of olfactory cortex which receives the olfactory tract or olfactory nerves. So I told you that the brain has two axes for the olfactory stimuli. The brain perceives in a two method. One method is the information. After receiving the information by olfactory cortex, it it transmits information to the frontal lobe. So the main function of frontal lobe is to detect what we smelled. So the frontal lobe detect, yes, the person, the individual is smelling a pizza. So when we are smelling a pizza, the frontal lobe is supposed to detect, yes, it is an pizza. So based on the information getting from the olfactory cortex, frontal cortex perceive that the stuff, the object, what we smelled. So once we are smelled a pizza, the frontal cortex are able to detect it. Yes, it is an pizza. Then the another axis of brain is the information. The olfactory cortex transmits information to the limbic system for triggering and creating emotion and the memories. So the taste, the sensation are connected with the memories and emotions. So these are the two axes of brain for the olfactory cortex. So the frontal lobe, which is helps us to detect what object we are supposed to smell. What the object, what the stuff, what we smelled, and the second axis is limbic system, which helps us to trigger the information. So these are all the process which comes under the olfactory neural pathway, which begins with the nostrils. The nostrils receive the molecules from the air surround us, receive the molecules. When the molecules reaches the absolute threshold, it passes through the dendrites of olfactory sensory neuron. So the olfactory sensory neuron transmits the information from the long axon through the ethmoid bone to the olfactory bulb. Olfactory bulb consists glomerulus, a portion which is combined each and every sensory olfactory sensory neuron together and passes the information to the mitral cell. So mitral cell receives the different kinds of smell, different kinds of smells, olfactory sensory neurons, which is detected various chemicals. It is combined together in the glomerulus, and the mitral cell receives it and passes the information to the olfactory cortex, which is located in the temporal lobe. So I hope these stages you get well, and you understood well about the process of olfaction. So now we enter into the second topic. Yeah, before that, before we are going to learn about the gustation, just now a condition. Yeah. From the beginning, I told you that anosmia, a partial or complete loss of smell. So when a person is affected by the anosmia, it will also affect her ability to taste, his or her ability to taste. So the smell, the process of olfaction and gustation is connected together. So once a person is affected by anosmia, that will affect her or his ability to taste also. The common cause of olfactory loss and dysfunction are nasal and paranasal disease, followed by upper respiratory infection, head trauma, idiopathic exposure or medications, and others, such as aging, neurodegenerative disease, congenital defects, and exposure to toxins. So the major causes for anosmia is aging. By aging, there is a possibility to affect anosmia, and some of the neurodegenerative disease also causes anosmia, and it is also affected by Parkinson's and Alzheimer's disease. So when a person is affected by the Parkinson's or Alzheimer's disease, there is a possibility to get anosmia. So these are all the contents which comes under olfactory sensation. So now we are move on to the gustation, the process of gustation. So while talking about the gustations, we have, we all know that we have 5 main tastes. Each taste depends on a particular receptors that localized somewhere on the tongue. So the 5 different things that we are able to taste are bitter compound, salty compound, sweet compound, and sour and umami. So yeah, we all know that the 5 different senses, the tastes which we are able to sense: sweet, umami, bitter, salty, or sour. So the umami, which might be new to you, it is nothing but it is basically ability to taste a particular molecule known as glutamate. So the umami is stands for receiving the molecules as glutamate, the glutamate molecules. So each taste is the taste. These are all the 5 tastes which we are able to sense, and for receiving these 5 different kind of sense, in the tongue consist 3 different types of taste buds. So in the human tongue, it consists 3 different taste buds, which is which stands for receiving the 5 different kind of taste. The first one, fungiform taste buds, which is located in the anterior portion of the tongue, the front side of the tongue, the fungiform taste buds, and the foliar taste buds, which is located the side part of the tongue, and the circumvalent taste buds, which is located the back side of the tongue. So each these taste buds, whether it is fungiform, whether it is foliate, whether it is circumvalent, each taste buds consist different taste senses through receptors. These 3 taste buds are responsible for receiving or detecting 5 different sense. So yeah, from the childhood we might heard that there is a particular portion in the human tongue which is responsible for detecting one particular taste. So that is wrong. So each taste bud, it is whether it is fungiform, foliate, or circumvalent, the human tongue, it consists taste buds everywhere, and each taste bud is responsible for detecting 5 senses, 5 taste senses. So each taste buds have different kinds of cell which is receiving sweet, umami, bitter, sour, salty. So each taste buds receiving the 5 taste senses. So you can see here the G protein coupled receptor. So it is a receptor which is receiving sweet, umami, and bitter, and the ion channels which is receiving sour and salty. So these are all. It is a particular portion of a pore. Taste bud consists of a pore. So inside the pore there are different kinds of cells which is responsible for detecting each senses. So after the action potential occurs, it transmits the information through gustatory neurons to the brain, to the gustatory cortex. So this picture, it is known as labeled line models. So I told you that each taste buds, it consists of pore. So inside the pore there is a different cells which is responsible for detecting each senses, whether it is sweet, salt, sour, bitter, or umami. So you can see here each cells, the different colors indicate that different senses, different tastes. So each sense neurons transmit the information to the brain, to the gustatory cortex. So the gustatory cortex, in the inside of gustatory cortex, there is a specific region for one particular taste. So the taste bud, so the sweet taste sensation, which is indicated in the blue line, which is goes to the sweet detecting area in the gustatory region, and the bitter, it has a special region, and every taste sense have a different region in the gustatory cortex. So each gustatory cortex has a different portions for each detecting each senses, each taste senses. So these particular what we call then the transmission of information from the taste buds to the brain is known as labeled line models. So these are the gustatory pathway. It begins with the taste buds to the gustatory cortex. Gustatory cortex, which is located in the anterior portion of frontal lobe in the brain. So the process of gustation, mainly we have 5 different tastes which the human beings are able to detect: the sweet, umami, bitter, sour and salty. And in the human tongue, the taste buds located everywhere. Yes, all over the tongue, the taste buds are located, and the taste buds consist of pore which is carrying different kinds of cells, which is responsible for detecting one particular taste sense. So for receiving the sweet sensation, there is a particular cell, and receiving the umami sensation, there is a particular cell. So after receiving each sensation, it will transmit the information from through the gustatory neurons to the gustatory cortex in the brain. So that particular transmission of gustatory neurons to the brain is known as labeled line model. So yes, for detecting 5 different tastes, we have 3 different types of taste buds: fungiform, foliate and circumvallate. So the neurons, gustatory neurons, receive the sweet, umami and bitter through gene protein coupled receptors, and receiving sour and salty through ion channels. So these are all the top contents or the portions which comes under gustation and olfaction. I hope this video helps you to learn about the neural pathway of olfaction and gustation. Thank you.